Welcome to our webinar, everyone. My name is Shannon C. Smith, and I am spokesperson for Florida Prepaid College Savings Plans. And I'm joined today by Paul Roldan, who is going to tell you a little bit about himself, but he is a certified financial planner based in Orlando, and he also has a unique perspective as also being a plan holder. Our goal today is to share with you some really exciting changes that we have made for Florida Prepaid, all aimed at making college savings easier and more affordable than ever for families, making the enrollment process simpler, the decision-making process easier, because we know that this is an important decision that you're going to make for your child and your family. One housekeeping note is that if you have any questions, you can give them to us now. You can also email info@myfloridaprepaid.com and we will get those answers back to you as soon as we possibly can. So Paul, tell us a little bit about yourself and your unique perspective coming from where you are.
Hi, Shannon, and hello, everyone listening. Thank you, as always, for having me. It's always an honor and a pleasure to do these with you. As Shannon mentioned, I live in Orlando, Florida, and I am a certified financial planner. So from that perspective, I help people plan for college funding. Okay, that's part of what a CFP does in helping people plan for retirement, for unknown circumstances, but for potential circumstances such as children going to college. So I come at it from that angle of how do I help other people do this, but there's an old commercial that I'm not just a hair club, president, I am also a member. So same here.
Right.
I'm also a user of the Florida Prepaid. I'm a holder. I have 3 children. Okay. And 2 of them, one already finished college and the other one is about to finish college here in Florida. And the third one's not even there yet, so, and I bought the prepaid for all 3 and had just a great experience because it fit into what I was trying to accomplish.
That's wonderful. And congratulations on the 2 that are almost second that it's almost done. Paul, I'm curious to hear when you talk to families, what are the most common barriers that are preventing them from starting, right? Like if they haven't started yet, what is typically going on there?
I'm going to take a step back and say the typical barrier is not necessarily something related to education or the plan itself, but it's the fact that depending on what age the child is, okay, it may be 10, 20 years away if it's a newborn, 18 years away. So it's hard to plan for such a long period, and that happens whether it's education funding, retirement funding, et cetera, okay? But aside from the time factor, it's also, is it right for me because my child is 12, so is it too late? Am I too late? Okay.
Right.
Or my child is 3, is it too soon? Okay. So there's those unknown questions of, when is the right time to do this? And then your typical issue with a lot of folks is how do I budget for this? You're going to pay for college at some point, right? Or someone's going to pay for college at some point. So do we budget now and you take the lead on it, or do you let it hit you later and then you have to figure it out at some point? But usually the budgeting aspect, not knowing, okay, what's the best way to do this? Do I do an investment? Do I do something such as a prepaid? And then how much is this going to cost me? So those are all a lot of moving parts. And when there's a lot of moving parts, we feel that overanalysis leads to stagnation or paralysis, if you will.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. When we, meet with families, we're at events and things like that, I hear that too. I have a middle schooler. Is it too late? Also hear a lot of, to your point, we have obviously different products for people to choose from for college savings. And we're going to talk here in a second about how we've simplified that line of products, partly because what we would hear too is, well, I don't know, which one is right for my child. Because to your point, when you have a toddler or a baby, you don't know what they're going to want to do, right? And I think also the landscape of what it means to have post-secondary education is changing, right? People are thinking, well, are they going to go into career, trade, and technical? Probably actually making really good money. Those are high demand fields. Are they going to go the college route, or the university route? So a lot of just, I think, to your point, unknowns. The great news and what we're excited to share today is, what we've done in terms of our new website, our enrollment process, and what we offer is trying to directly answer all of those questions and barriers, right? The fact that people saying, I don't know which one, right? Is it too late, right? Making it, more affordable. And I think really driving home the idea that it's better to save something than save nothing. And to your point, you're going to pay for college somehow. Everything you can save beforehand in advance helps them not have to take on student loan debt, which is obviously can be quite crippling for people. I met somebody the other day. I mean, he's a radio host and he's in his 60s and he is still paying off a loan for
Mm.
college. And so that's just
Wow.
like, wow, that's just, think about all of the things that's impacting in terms of his life. So anything you can do is better. And I think what you're going to find is the earlier is the better in terms of what you can afford and what you can save. But again, there is an option for you, even if it's a little bit later. So I want to just kind of give you an overview if you're watching. And if you're watching and these are also some of the barriers that you feel, like I hope you feel encouraged that you're not alone. This I think is a
Mm.
common thing. To Paul's point, he's dealing with clients every day who are coming to him with the same questions and concerns. What we have done, particularly for our prepaid plan, in terms of what we've changed, up until just a couple of months ago, we had 5 different types of prepaid plans. And Paul, you probably had that option when you were purchasing for your children because you were purchasing in that window when we had 5 options. And these ranged, if you're watching, from, to traditional 4-year university to a 4-year college, and we kind of had different scenarios for the different paths of college. But what we've often heard was people would look at those options and we'd have a dorm plan, right, to cover housing. They would look at the options and say, well, I don't know which one I should do, right? And then they might say, they would try to figure out the pricing on the 4-year university and might find, well, I can't afford that. And so then in the absence of being able to afford it, they would just do nothing. And so then it would just be, to your point, Paul, stagnation. They would just not. What we have done is we have simplified that down to one prepaid plan that is a 1-year plan. Why have we done that? Number one, we want to encourage people to start somewhere. Start with 1 year. Because even if you can't cover all 4 years, if they end up doing that scenario, that's a year that you have covered that they don't have to borrow for. Also, when we position that as a 1-year plan, now I'm going to show you here in a little bit how you can determine the pricing on that and what that looks like for your family budget. When you think about a year, the way this plan works is our 1-year plan is now based on 30 credit hours, right? The idea that in a year of university, you're doing 2 semesters, you're probably doing about 15 credits per semester. And so it's covering that 30 years of university tuition. It's also, though, flexible. So if you have a 1-year prepaid plan and your child actually decides, I'm going to go to a state college, then that 1 year of coverage is going to actually probably cover 2 years of college tuition, because we know that in Florida, college tuition is about half of what it is of university tuition. So the idea here, if you're watching this, is that you are purchasing in 1-year increments what you can afford today. And it may be that you have to add on, a year later, you add on another year later. It may be that multiple family members are each going to contribute in and do a year each. That's an option too, right? So multiple generations can all contribute toward the same child. But that prepaid plan, all the benefits still apply. There still can be used for any education scenario. If you had a 1-year prepaid plan and they ended up going to a trade or technical school, more than likely you're actually going to have money left over, right? Value left over in that plan, because trade and technical tuition is not nearly as expensive as university or even as college. And so depending on the route that you go, you actually probably are going to be potentially covered for an entire CTE education with 1-year prepaid plan. So lots of different scenarios there. And again, we just want people to start, somewhere. And I think also this helps address that group, Paul, of people that say, I have a middle schooler, I have a 10-year-old. And so when they go to sort of figure out what that would cost them, the prepaid plans, the idea, if you don't know how they work and you're watching, is that you are prepaying the cost of tuition for that plan, but you're locking in the prices today for future tuition coverage. So in other words, you're locking in at today's prices what 30 credit hours at a university will cost when it's time for your child to go to college. The great news is you don't have to worry about if university tuition has skyrocketed, right, at that time, because you are covered by us. We would cover the gap between what you have paid into that plan based on, what you've agreed to, what you've locked in, and what tuition actually is by the time that they go. So that guarantee from the state of Florida, still there. You can still get a full refund of whatever isn't used or that you don't use. You can still transfer those plans to other beneficiaries. If you have a child that gets a full ride somewhere and they don't need it, you could transfer that to another child. So still all of those benefits, you can use them in state and out, public and private institutions. So we've kept that flexibility. But I think it also helps people that they can see, okay, well, maybe when I have a 10-year-old, because what happens in terms of the prepaid ramp up, guys, is that the earlier you start, the lower your payments because you have longer to pay it off. It's something like a car payment, right? It's going to be lower payments if you're paying it over 6 years versus 3. But you're going to pay, obviously for the car, it's different because you're paying, interest and all those things. But in this case, the earlier you save, our newborn prices are starting at about $30 a month. Really affordable for a 1-year prepaid plan. If you wait until they're older, that 1 year is going to be more per month. But I think by helping people see that it's just 1 year at a time, that maybe now what looked like it was not affordable because you're thinking, oh, I have to cover all 4 years. Just start with 1 year or 2 years, because even with a 10-year-old or a 12-year-old, you still probably can maybe figure out how to do that. We also have our investment plan. So Paul, you mentioned that we have our 529 investment plan, and we're going to kind of show you how these can work side by side. That's another thing we're trying to do, Paul, and I would love to hear your perspective here. We're trying to share with people that we have 2 plan options. We've got these prepaid plans, right? And then we also have the investment plan. The investment plan doesn't lock you in to a monthly payment. It says you can put in what you can when you can. You choose your investment option. Most people choose an option that's basically kind of based on the age of the child, and it's a little bit of a set it and forget it, right? Because most people are not certified financial planners and they don't feel that they can do that on their own. And so we can handle that for you. But it allows people who have maybe a more limited budget, who have maybe a more uncertain budget, to basically just put in what they can when they can. And then over time, that money is invested and it grows. The earlier or further away they are from college, it's going to be more aggressive. The closer they get to actually being college age or post-secondary age, it's going to become more conservative to preserve what they have grown. Anything as little as $25 a month invested consistently in those plans can grow to several $1,000s by the time a child is, 18, if you start when they're young. And so we have those side by side. We're going to show you here in a second our new savings builder tool, and it's going to show you how you can actually get a more diversified college savings portfolio by having both a prepaid plan and a 529. So Paul, when you talk to people about college savings, do you talk about that diversity and wanting to not put all your eggs in one basket? I mean, what does that conversation go like?
No, we absolutely talk about that. When we talk about investing as a whole, you talk about diversification, right? So we approach the saving for college the same way. You talked about the 2 different types of plans. We equate that to say, okay, well, the prepaid is like a bond portfolio, and the investment savings 529 plan is a stock portfolio, equity side. So some clients have one, some clients have the other, some clients have both, depending if you want to be aggressive, conservative, or a blend. Okay, a lot of this same conversations when you talk about investing. How much time do I have? What's my risk tolerance? All those same factors come into play when determining which one makes more sense. So we absolutely talk about, well, if you're more risk averse and you have the time and the budget, well, the prepaid might make more sense because you're locking in, you have more guarantees there. Okay. Mm-hmm. If you're more risk tolerant, to have a higher risk level for risk and appetite and time, to let markets do what they need to do, well, you might lean more towards the savings plan because you don't mind the ups and downs that the market may bring, or maybe you're in the middle and you take some of both. The other feature we have is prepaid is great. Yeah, obviously I'm a biased user, but it worked out great for my children. Okay, so it's great for college. But now with the new legislation, 529, you don't have to only use it for college. Okay, so you can
the
use
investment plan. That's right. You can use it for many things.
Okay, so this might be a way to fund a private high school, and now the limits are going to go up starting in 2026, up to $20,000 a year. And we know how expensive schools can be and materials and things of that nature. So there's a lot of factors to consider, and the beautiful thing is that Florida provides both areas to be able to tools to be able to address any of those factors, which I think is powerful when trying to decide what makes sense for your family.
Yes. You mentioned before I'm about to show you all the savings builder tool and walk you through a demo here. You mentioned the 529 investment plan, the tax rules. These have changed. If you're watching and you're not familiar, these are now becoming, and we're seeing it on the prepaid, board side as an organization. We are seeing many more people choosing the investment plan. They'll have a prepaid plan, but then adding on the investment plan, right, or just choosing the investment plan as their preferred route. Partly because, to your point, you can use it for K through 12 expenses. You can use it for not just tuition, right? Prepaid plans cover tuition only. The investment plan can be tuition, books, housing, electronic things, anything that is needed for college expenses, and not just, post-secondary. You can, if you have a plan, you can use it in that K through 12 window. There's also the legislation, Paul, that changes, I think this was 2 years ago, that you can, after 15 years, any unused money in a 529 investment plan can be rolled over into a Roth IRA for the child. So now you're actually helping them start. I mean, I wish I had 15 years out of high school, rolled over into an IRA. That would be just a great thing. And that means also that money is not taxed, right, in that window of the transition. So it's just a lot of tax benefits, to your point, Paul, that are just making this really, really awesome. Okay, well, let's go ahead and get to the good stuff here. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And this is our new website. What we tried to do on this website is really, reflect the fact that we are a financial institution. We are, a state entity, but this is really a big financial decision for families. And we've tried to, address some of the myths that we hear from people, not myths, but like the questions people have, oh, can I use it in state? Can I use it out? What about scholarships and financial aid? We get that question a lot. Is this tax-free versus putting it into a bank savings account? All of those questions. And then if you scroll down just a little bit more, this is where we start our college savings builder tool. And so what we love about this is the idea is you are going in and you are customizing your college saving strategy based on your budget, your comfort level with investing versus not. And so let's go ahead and do a scenario, Paul, where it's just, I want to explore my options, right? You come into our website, you're not sure. The first thing we do is we just kind of give you a brief overview of what Paul and I just talked about. What's the difference between a prepaid plan and 529 plan and the investment 529 plan? Again, prepaid plans covering tuition and fees. Investments can cover a wide variety of expenses. With prepaid, it's fixed monthly payments. With an investment 529, you choose how much and when. And so this is really kind of just laying that out. Then you're going to get to the point where it's going to say, what is the student's name and birth date? Now, why are we asking this? Only because to determine the pricing and how far your money can go based on what your budget is, we just need to know the child's birth date because it tells us basically what their graduation high school scenario is, right? Like when are they graduating from high school so that we can plan out what your budget looks like. So I'll just put my name in. And let's pretend that, I am a newborn. I was born basically just this year. And so we're going to put that scenario in. And so it says that my expected college date is 2043. Now, I could do the same thing and say that I was born in, 2015 and I'm 10 years old, whatever that scenario is. Just a little nugget that we add here too is just that the number one reason parents say they don't save is because they think they can't afford it. Our goal, if you're watching this, is to show you that you probably actually can. Maybe not in the way that if you had all the money in the world, you would save, but that's the case for all of us, right? We all wish we could do everything. The goal that we're about to show you is that you can do something even on a limited budget. And this is where we get to what are you considering allocating for your monthly college savings budget? And so that's the number one rule, right? Start with the budget. So let's say that your scenario is, I can afford $51 to $100 a month, right? It's okay if you're not over here. We're going to start with $51 to $100. If I hit continue, then it's going to ask you, what is the most appealing to you? Do you want peace of mind? So you need a fixed payment, no risk. You can know it's going to be the same payment every month. And when we say no risk, it's because, again, you can get that full refund. You're not dealing with the stock market or investing, any of that. But maybe you want flexibility and you're like, I actually prefer not to have to put in a certain monthly payment every month, but I also like having investment options. We are finding that most people, when they come into our website now, because of the Savings Builder tool, are choosing best of both because they want, to your point, Paul, to diversify what that is, right? So then we hit continue. Now, this shows you what your options are. With $100 and a baby, you could actually afford 2 years of our prepaid 529 plan. So that would give you 60 credit hours at a state university tuition level. Or the equivalent would be about 4 years of a state college degree. Our state colleges, to all 28, offer 4-year degrees in high demand fields. So that is absolutely an option. And then the investment plan would just be that you're putting all of the 100 that you have in your college savings budget into that investment 529 plan. Another scenario would be you actually do both. So it's going to cost you, $70.56 a month for those 2-year prepaid plans. But under this scenario, you actually have $29.44 left over. So we say, why not put it into that 529 investment plan to help cover all the other expenses of college? Then you're going to review, and it's going to tell you right here that for $100, you could do 2 years of the prepaid plan. You could put the rest into a 510 investment plan. And by 2043, as your child is graduating high school, you are going to have an estimated $41,000 and 436 and 24 cents toward college expenses, right? And in this case, it's a mix of 2 years of tuition is guaranteed. You don't have to worry about how much it goes up between now and 2043. You have that 60 credit hours covered. And then you have the money that is going to be in your 529 investment plan. At this point, a family could go to enrollment. Something to note too, you could also at this point just have it email you the prices, right? Just show me what this would be. Now, I could also select here and just say, no, I want to put everything into the 529 investment plan. Under that scenario, again, $100, and you're going to be growing basically all of it into that investment plan. The only thing here is, under this scenario, you don't have tuition coverage guaranteed in terms of today's prices, right? So the benefit of a prepaid plan is that you're locking in today's prices for future tuition coverage. But under the scenario, you still have a pretty healthy college savings budget for just $100 a month. And I think to your point, Paul, you're going to have to pay for college at some point, and better to have just put aside a little bit each month and then have it than to get a price tag when they're graduating high school and you're looking at college options and it's like, wow, this is going to cost $32,000 that we do not have. So Paul, when you look at this, just from a perspective of a planner, how would you use this with a client? Like, is this helpful to you? Tell me a little bit about your feedback.
Yeah, no, this tool is powerful because again, it goes to the grain of the matter. When I said in the beginning, overanalysis can lead to paralysis. We live in the age of information. We have access to so much information, AI now, and all that type of stuff. But I find that sometimes we become overwhelmed. That's what most people who come to me say, I don't know what to do. I'm saying, well, you have access to all this information, but that causes more confusion sometimes. This is a very nice, concise way to say, listen, let's keep it simple. It addresses the 3 issues that I talked about when making these decisions, which how much time do we have, how much risk are you willing to take, and what's your budget? Okay, and it'll meet you where you're at, which is beautiful. Okay, so it demythifies this, oh, I can't, but because it's beyond my reach. Okay, it helps you start doing something with very tangible action items. Of course, I have to disclose as an advisor, I don't know what projection rates they're using for the investments, but aside from that, and I'm sure it's very conservative, we are very fortunate that we're one of the few states that offers a prepaid in combination with the 529, which again can be a very powerful combination with all the other things that we have going on in the state and legislation. I think this would be a great tangible way to help clients to start doing something for their children.
Yeah, and you raised a good point. We are the nation's largest and longest running prepaid program existing. We were founded over 36 years ago. Over 1.2 million families have saved with us, and we've sent over 640,000 students to post-secondary education. So that's just a powerful legacy. If you're not in that group yet, right, what can you do in the next 48 hours? We're going to give you a little bit of homework. I would say number one, go to that savings builder tool. It's all on myfloridaprepaid.com. Go through that and just start doing your research. Play with the tool. You can also, like I said, this is now a mobile first website. So everything I showed you, you can do even from your phone, and you can enroll within about 10 to 15 minutes. So we really made it very, very simple. We know this is not an easy decision, but we also know that it's one that can be truly life-changing. Studies show that children with even a fraction of their college savings set aside are 4 times more likely to go to college. And I think when I say college, understood that path today might be career technical, it might be 4-year college, it might be 4-year university. There's a recent Georgetown University study that at least 80% of jobs by 2035 are still going to require post-secondary education. So I know there's a lot of kind of debate swirling about, is college still worth it? The answer is, if you have some sort of post-secondary education, you still have many more choices than the person who does not. And I don't think that's going to change. And so this is really a way for you to, to save for that. So again, between now and November 10th, you start a plan with us, we put $50 into that account. And it's really just, our way of saying congratulations, and we want to be part of that journey. Our open enrollment window for prepaid plans does officially start in February, but under this scenario with the new website, you can essentially get that started, and then you would not be billed, right? You would not have your first payment until a month after open enrollment starts. So that's also great. We've really tried to kind of make that more flexible for people. And so it's a good way, to your point, get it started, right? Get it done. The prepaid plan, the child has to be born, right? A 529 investment plan. So if you're watching this and you're expecting and they're not here yet, you can actually open that 529 investment plan in your name and then transfer it to the child once they are born. Paul, thank you again so much for your time today. I think your perspective is very important. And, if you're watching, again, info@myfloridaprepaid.com with any questions, and myfloridaprepaid.com is the website. Again, myfloridaprepaid.com. Take 5 minutes after this, when you are done watching this, to basically just go to that savings builder tool and see what it might look like under different budget scenarios. And as little as, again, $25 a month into a 5-10 investment plan can grow quite a bit over time. Thank you so much, Paul, for your time.
Thank you, Shannon.
Bye.